Welcome to the Filmcast review of The Monkey. I'm going to read the plot summary of this movie from the internet. When twin brothers find a mysterious wind-up monkey, a series of outrageous deaths tear their family apart. Devindra, I am curious if you had any expectations going into this movie. It's obviously based off of the Stephen King short story. I think you're like an Osgood Perkins fan.
I am an Osgood Perkins fan.
You like Longlegs more than any of us, I think.
I love Longlegs.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen his earlier movies. Yeah.
So what did you think of The Monkey, and what were you expecting when you went to see The Monkey? I'm kind of curious.
Honestly, I was expecting something different because I've seen the trailers for this, and they were really hinting at something that was a little campier.
Yeah.
Dare I say funnier than his past ones. But also, Longlegs had this great undercurrent of dark comedy to it that I found kind of fascinating, among other things it was doing. So I was just going in expecting like a good time. I've heard good things about the short story too, kind of like a really unhinged Stephen King idea. So I was expecting to be entertained. And let me tell you, I love a movie that just like gets me in the first scene, because the first scene of this movie introduces somebody who you didn't expect would be in this movie. I don't think they're in the trailers. And it really sets the tone of what it is. And what it is pure camp. Like, it's horror camp, but also it's essentially Final Destination, except you've got a subject. You know, you've got something causing those crazy death scenarios. And I thought this movie was hilarious. I thought it was funnier than most comedies I've seen lately. I had a blast with it. It's just really fun. Like, it's a really fun sort of like, it is a dark thing. It's about death. It tries to have some like deeper meaning, which we can talk about in spoilers. But even that I found kind of compelling. But mostly I found it to be like a really fun, campy romp. Maybe a good distraction from like the actual horrors that we're seeing every day out here. But it's like, what's actually in there? You've got, I think Theo James is probably my least favorite part of this whole thing. Like, he's fine as an actor. Casting him as sort of like a nerdy dude is always, I think that is maybe a joke in itself. Like, you know, this is funny that this supermodel is, you put glasses on him and now he's some sort of dork. But Tatiana Maslany, I think, is hilarious in this. Pretty much like everybody. There's a guy who plays the priest. I think he's just funny as hell. Like, just like, there's so many bits.
That's what I knew. That's when I knew this movie was like really out there. It was like, there's a priest.
That's when you knew?
That's when you knew.
Not 2 minutes of this movie?
Not the intestines being flown out.
Not a harpoon to the abdomen.
I knew pretty early on, but maybe I'm just more perceptive about campy material here. But no, I knew this movie was just kind of a little unhinged, a little campy, and I thought it was just like really funny. Like, every scene is doing something interesting. It's endlessly entertaining. The stakes keep ramping up. There's some fun twists. And also just, I don't watch horror movies for the death scenes, but you know what? There's some really creative kills in this movie. Like, it is going out there. There's an actual Final Destination movie coming this year. And I think, how do you match what this movie is doing in terms of like insane, crazy, out there kill scenarios? Like, I thought this movie was an absolute blast. I loved it.
I'm really psyched about that Final Destination movie, by the way. Directed by Filmcast listeners. So we're
nice.
really, it's one of my most anticipated films.
Just all of them? Just the group got together?
Yeah. Literally,
that's the hive mind.
The collective of it's directed by people who have at one point listened to the Filmcast. At least
that was the requirement.
Yeah, that was the requirement. It was asked of them.
That's how movies get greenlighted these days.
Yeah, you have actors saying, "Hey, you need to have 1 million followers on Instagram in order to get cast in a movie." It's a similar test for directors. You have to listen to. You have to have listened to the Filmcast at least once.
It worked out for Everything Everywhere All at Once, right?
They got some Oscars. We know that's true for Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's true for the final. Prey. We know it's true for the Final Destination guys, right? Like, it's.
It's really a consistent pattern these days. We're kind of hit makers over here.
Absolutely. In an interview with Vanity Fair, by the way, Osgood Perkins talked about what this movie was, because I think a lot of people will have a difficult time categorizing it. The question was asked, do you feel like you may have actually made a comedy? And Osgood Perkins responded, I know I've made a comedy.
Yes, he knows.
No doubt about that.
Yes.
I don't consider The Monkey a horror movie at all, in the same way I don't consider Gremlins a horror movie. Gremlins is a good time. You know what I mean? As we get further and further into pre-production, a lot of what I had to do was constantly reaffirm to the producers and to the financiers, I've got this. I know what this is. and I promise you, it's not going to make you poor. I promise you, you've made a brave decision to make this movie, and I promise you, it's going to work. And then he says, I finally had to call them and say, it's not scary. There are no jump scares in this movie. It doesn't operate like that. You know what it is? It's a Hollywood movie. It's like Gremlins. It's like An American Werewolf in London. It's like Thriller. It's got that level of entertainment value. I knew that I wanted to have people screaming with laughter, and we got there. End quote.
It's like Beetlejuice. I was thinking if anybody should have done Beetlejuice, it probably should have been him who could have injected some new life into that whole concept. Yeah.
Jeff Kanata, your thoughts on The Monkey?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say my thoughts on The Monkey are best summed up in the form of a limerick.
Oh, let's hear it, Jeff.
It has fun with the blood that it spills, like filmmakers of major skill. But it's not quite the samey as Burton or Raimi, because the only good part is the kills. I agree. This felt like Beetlejuice. It felt like Army of Darkness. It felt like it was channeling Tim Burton and Sam Raimi. And I cackled with laughter numerous times. It's not something you often hear from me. The best part of the movie was the gruesome deaths. But I think the best part of The Monkey are the gruesome deaths that come out of nowhere and are just spectacularly realized. There's one that has to do with a pool that might be my favorite in the whole movie, just because of like how over the top it gets.
Yeah.
And that is great fun with The Monkey. That is the end of what I liked about The Monkey. Now, I grew up as a young adolescent obsessed with Stephen King. I read, I've since kind of soured on his writing a bit, but there was a period of time where I was obsessive about Stephen King. And Skeleton Crew, which is the short story collection that this short story upon which this movie is based is from, and the old paperback copy that I had from the 80s had a picture of this monkey on it. The Skeleton Crew has a bunch of different stories in it, but the image on the paperback is this monkey. And they made the monkey in this movie look like the art from that 1980s paperback edition of Skeleton Crew.
Which also looks like the monkey from Toy Story 3, as several people have pointed out too. So yeah,
but also Jeff, it has carried over many editions. It's not just the one from the 80s. Like,
well, obviously that's the first though. Like that's the one that it started in, right? That's the
right. I'm just saying over many years, this Skeleton Crew has been re-released, and they have continued to choose the monkey as the iconic image to define that.
There's
collection.
Also a couple of editions that chose an image from a different story in the collection. There's a crow on one of them.
Sure.
But
it is a recurring motif.
Iconic.
Yes.
So when I was a kid, I'm just trying to relate my context for this. One of the things that used to be a treat for me as a young kid, I have a younger sister, 2 years younger than I, and we were allowed on very special occasions to sleep in a tent in our backyard. We got to, like we were camping, but it was in our backyard, which at the time felt like a real treat for us. But I can only imagine my parents being like, thank God the kids are outside away from us. But what we would do in the tent is I'd get a flashlight and I'd get Stephen King short story collections like Skeleton Crew or what was the other one? I can't remember. But I would read out loud these scary stories to my sister. The Raft from Skeleton Crew. Oh gosh, I remember reading that one. And I remember reading The Monkey. Can I tell you something, fellas? This movie bears almost no resemblance to the story of, there's a monkey, there's a father named Hal and a son named Petey, and the monkey kills people, but that's about it. This movie invents some stuff in it. This whole like twin brother thing, I don't remember from the story. You guys can correct me if you've read it more recently than I, but I don't remember that being in the story at all. And I don't think it works in this movie at any point. It is so clunky and weird and dumb. The ending of this movie, I thought, landed like a lead balloon. It is so like all of the plot machinations, all of everything that's not a hilarious kill in this movie to me does not work. There are a few funny moments. I agree with you, Devindra, that the priest is this funny little, almost like a comedy sketch. And it's a funny comedy. I've never seen a take on a priest like that. It's funny and amusing, but the progression of how the motivation of literally any character in this movie makes no sense to me at all. It just doesn't hold together to me as a movie. What it does hold together as is a series of hilarious visual effects and practical effects that create funny, gruesome, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough for some people. It wasn't enough for me. I think that, I really like Theo James. I think that he's a really great actor. I kept thinking, like, man, this guy,
White Lotus season 2. Yeah.
Great. He was great in White Lotus season 2. Great in The Gentleman, that show. He could have been Superman. Like, you could have cast that dude as Superman.
He can be James Bond, honestly. So
he could be James Bond. Is he British in real life? I don't know that. But anyway, miscast in this movie completely. I think just completely miscast. It's not. It doesn't make any sense that he's playing this part. Like, he is, as you said, Devindra, like,
he looks like he's a supermodel, basically.
He's a supermodel. Objectively, just statuesque. He's like the ideal, and there's no messing that up. There's no.
What if we give him a mullet?
You give him a mullet,
It's come on, man.
So once the mullet came out, I was like, oh, this movie knows exactly. You're just trying to be silly with this beautiful man. Yeah.
And there's a lot of lovely little cameos that, Elijah Wood shows up in this movie. Adam Scott shows up in this movie. Good. There's fun to be had here.
Yeah.
I do not think this is a good movie. I do not think the story it's telling is effective, is skillfully executed. But what is skillfully executed are those fun kills that I had enough fun with that I could be like, yeah, go for that. But the movie could have also been good, I think, and it was not for me.
Yeah, I feel that. Osgood Perkins himself, by the way, shows up in this movie. He is the uncle, and he has such an unusual face. So whenever he pops up in anything, it's like, oh yeah, that's him.
Oh, it's great. He has one scene, like he sits down next to the kid, and like it has one scene, and it's so great.
Yeah,
it's really great. Like, there's great moments in this movie. It's just like the movie itself doesn't hold together for me.
There's a scene, a cutaway with him. Also, like, this movie goes places involving him and horses. Fun stuff.
I had a fun time with this movie. I agree with you that the kills are very good. It's actually the first time in a while I feel like I've even seen a horror comedy. Like, these things used to come out relatively frequently.
Beetlejuice never happened, right? Left no impact on us.
There was no residual impact from Beetlejuice. I had a bunch of assorted thoughts while watching this movie. First of all, here's a thought I had. I feel like this movie does a better job of being a horror movie way of communicating the idea of generational trauma than Wolfman.
Yes.
Well,
like the idea
again,
of
low bar, but
the idea of like handing down something to your children that is also going to really traumatize them, right? Like in the form of the monkey.
Also kind of something Osgood Perkins lived with, because his father is Norman Bates, That
was going to be my next point, which is I think that ideally, this movie is funny and thrilling, and it also makes you think in a profound way about life.
Yes.
Because the idea is that, hey, like, we can't control when we die, and some people die extremely peacefully and some people die horribly, right? And like that is a thing that Tatiana Maslany's character says, and it's also true about life. And wow, isn't that absurd? That's the case, right? Like,
it's how we live.
Some people die in their sleep, and some people like are mangled horrifically, and like that's how they die. And it's like that no one can control it, and there's something really upsetting and absurd about that, and that this movie kind of brings it to light. That would be like a really profound idea. I don't know that it was fully successful for me. Like, I don't know that, like, I spend a lot of time thinking about death, and I don't know that, like, this movie really
does not meet your bar.
It does not really meet my bar of like making
profundity.
it more profound. I think this movie really is best understood as Osgood Perkins working out a bunch of stuff in his own autobiography and personal life, right? Like, his father, Anthony Perkins, very famous actor, was closeted, died of AIDS, right? And like the idea of unearthing something from your father's closet literally is a profound thought, I think. His mother died in one of the planes of 9/11, if I understand correctly, right? And so there's just like, I was reading this interview again with him at Vanity Fair. He was talking about how like he wasn't sure of that could happen. Like, he said,
what are the chances?
My experience with how my mom died on 9/11 was like, what? Wait a minute, that's a thing that can happen?
Yeah.
End quote, right? Like, that's a thing that can happen. It's just like,
sad.
There's this kind of like sort of surreal experience of like, what, when a tragedy of that magnitude hits you, that there's like something that's so inconceivable about it that it makes you feel like you're having an out-of-body experience. And I think at its best, this movie brings some of those things to life, brings those things out. I don't know that it all tied together in a cohesive fashion for me, though. Like, I don't know that at the end I got something that I was like, oh, like, I feel more deeply about how life and death work and relate to each other as a result of this film.
I think I got something out of it. I'll say, like, it's not just the fact that, some people die peacefully and some people die horribly. It's like, it's completely random. It's out of your control. And Tatiana Maslany has this whole great sequence. It's like, you will die, I will die, and what do we do? Let's go dancing. Like, really, what can you do in the face of like profound, like, just everything will be terrible? Is just like, enjoy what you've got. And to me, honestly, that's a thing I think a lot of people need to hear very often, especially right now. Like, you look at the news, you look at everything happening. Like, how do we survive? How do we keep going forward? I don't know. You find a way to dance through it, I guess, and hopefully get to something.
That was a great scene with Tatiana Maslany, and I guess I feel like I wish that's how I felt at the end of the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree.
I wish I got to the end of the movie and I felt like, oh man, they really landed that.
I 100% agree with that.
Like, and I don't feel like they did. I don't feel like
they tried. I think they tried to land that, and it didn't. To me, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, cause it's always juggling. Like, it's always trying to be funny at times too. Like, there's a thing that happens right at the end we'll talk about, but it's hard to juggle all these different tones.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that I Googled the Skeleton Crew covers images.
Yes,
David. And while
Jeff, I literally was trying to yes and you. I was trying to like support what you were saying. I was trying to saying. I was trying to be like, oh, Jeff, you brought this thing up. Hey, like, it's actually like what you're saying is extremely true. That's what I was trying to do, but it failed horribly, obviously, because you took it as me trying to contradict you. So, but what were you going to say, Jeff?
Well, there's been no fewer than 5 different covers with different images. There's like a shadow man. There's a skeleton dancing on cards. There's a dock. There's a crow. And the monkey, but the monkey was like the first one that I remember.
I remember the monkey.
The monkey on the skeleton.
I mean, when you go to Amazon now, like, I think that is still the
they've got a new, like, now it's a major movie version.
Yeah. But that's true.
But the other book that I would read, my sister and I would read, is Night Shift. The other early 80s Stephen King short story collection.
Yeah. I've read that. Yeah, for sure.
So they're so fun. They were so fun as kids. Loved them. Anyway, go ahead.
But anyway, lesson learned. I got to start by saying, Jeff, I'm trying to yes and you, and then say the thing. And
that's how improv works. Is like,
that'll go back.
Declare what you're doing.
They always declare it first, right?
Yes.
That's how it works. Anyway, those are some initial thoughts. I will also say this before I get to spoilers: is I thought the design of the monkey was excellent. Like,
incredible. The way it peels its lips back.
The way it peels the glass eyes, they're like so lifelike. Like, it almost made you feel like the eyes were looking at you, but they I don't think they were mechanical in any way, right? I thought the monkey design itself was really great. So,
and they're like the spinning drumstick thing. That's so rad.
All right, folks, let's get to spoilers for the monkey starting right now. All right, spoilers for the monkey starting right now. Yeah, I really first of all, gotta shout out some of the kills. The pool kill was great.
Great. Fast.
I didn't expect the woman to explode.
So awesome.
Putting that out there.
Many things, but not that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have to say that I was surprised. I found the bees flying into the guy's mouth kill to be surprisingly effective. Like
it shouldn't work. That shouldn't work, but it did work. Yeah.
But then,
it looks terrible.
It looks when the bees fly, it's terrible. But then it's like when his whole face starts becoming bees.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's really upsetting.
That's
like
bad.
There's no universe where all the bees just beeline it into his mouth. And yet it worked. I really liked the flaming head lady.
Mm-hmm.
Who is like you're like, oh, this is how she's gonna go. Nope, not that. This is how she's gonna go. Nope, not that. And it keeps like,
Yeah, that was
and then
funny.
finally running into the sign. So good.
They're all so good. The uncle, like the cutaway to he died.
Yeah.
Trampled by horses. And then we keep going. We keep going. We open the sleeping bag. It just
so it looked like applesauce or something, like apple pie or something. Oh, so disgusting.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
But like the thing, I think what gets this movie for me is that it's also about kids coming to terms with the fact that their mother died, and one is dealing with the guilt of that, and one, the bad brother. Like, I wish there was more to that character other than him being a genuine asshole. Like, that's all it is. He's a genuine asshole, and then his mom dies, and he has like a spiral, and he slowly learns his brother did it. But also that scene with him at the funeral calling for the mom, that got me.
Oh, it
was rough. Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal. And then he's like, okay, carry on. She's not waking up. Oh, it's brutal.
My mom is a great prankster. She would do this.
Yeah.
Here's my question though. What was Mullet Theo James' plan? Like,
dude, this is my biggest problem with this whole movie.
If he hated his brother, couldn't he just literally hunt his brother down and kill him? Like, why does he need to use the wind-up monkey? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I mean, you could say he wants him to die by the same means that the mother died.
Yeah.
Like, he wants some poetic justice for that.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
Dude, the whole evil twin thing just never, ever, ever worked in the movie for me. And the end, where I think it's supposed to play like a joke, but it did not at all for me, is... I was upset that mom died too, because she was also my mom. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I guess.
I found that to be hilarious because, like, this guy has been he is a born narcissist. That's all he is. He is the asshole all throughout. I wish there was more to the character, but also it is kind of the lines like, oh yeah, didn't think about it that way. That's a hilarious way for a narcissist to respond to it.
I assume it's supposed to be funny.
It's supposed to be a joke. Did it land for you, Dave? Because I was like, that was like a lead balloon, man. That just did not. I think there's a way to make that funny.
It made me feel like this movie is kind of dumb. You know, like when I saw that. But Jeff, I also laughed at it. It's like,
did you?
Oh yeah,
It's a Family Guy moment, basically. Yeah. It's like, think of it that way, huh?
Yeah, I didn't think of it. I guess. Well, I guess she is
interesting.
It's that old Rosanna Dana thing of like, never mind. What's her famous line of Rosanna Dana on the old Saturday Night Live would like rant and rant and rant, and then they'd be like, that's not how it is, and she'd be like, oh. I don't think it was never mind, but she had some catchphrase where she's like, but that's how the references. I think that's how it was supposed to play. Is like, oops, my bad. Oh, right. I get it. But like, it doesn't. It didn't. I don't know. There's a lot of moments in this movie I laughed at. That was not one.
Yeah, you get the moment of catharsis, by the way, and then immediate death too. Like, it is.
Yeah.
The movie is always trying to be funny. I think the whole thing, like the point where it's just like people cheering on the deaths. That's we're in like full on. This is Beetlejuice territory or something.
Did they ever? Was there ever an explanation for that?
I loved that was not explained. I love that you just infer that this has become a town famous for ridiculous deaths, and we're like, we got nothing going on. That's who we are.
Yeah, it's a small town where also I love how the vibe is like 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, you're looking style wise, you're looking at different time periods almost. And the final cutaway.
We have that wonderful montage where the lady's like, there's been a few deaths. There was that guy and this guy. And we cut to each of them, which is, he's like, are there even vipers in this part of the country? She's like, well, there was the one.
There was the one.
That
lady straight out of Edward Scissorhands, basically, or Beetlejuice or something. Like, he gets, what I love about this movie is tonal control. From the very first scene where you got Adam Scott being crazy. It's like, oh, you know how to use Adam Scott. Okay. This is not just a harpoon kill. It is a harpoon retracting somebody's intestines out. It's Adam Scott with a flamethrower. Like, this movie just keeps doing the things that I find to be kind of hilarious. So it's like, if ultimately thematically it doesn't wrap together, if like, some parts of the script don't, to me, it's fine, because it's like, it knows exactly what it's doing. Elijah Wood as the ultimate daddy, but also he's reading the book. It's like, that's funny. It's Elijah Wood in that book cover, but it's also him just like really stressing. Yeah, took your power, but stressing the anxiety of everybody, like, who has who basically had to divorce their partner, and like their child is being raised by somebody else. It is all those anxieties of like that partner being better than you, fully made real in the most like hilarious way. Like, Elijah Wood also knew exactly what he was doing. I think basically every part, like, everybody knew exactly what they had to do tonally, what they were doing here. Even Osgood Perkins himself in his own scene, like, knew what he was conveying. He's like, never wanted kids.
Yeah.
But now we're stuck with you, basically. Oh yeah, we're swingers. Oh yeah, we're swingers. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Also we're swingers. Yeah. Oh, that line of hey, we're gonna try our best, but you should know that our best is gonna be pretty bad.
It's gonna be real bad. It's gonna be real bad.
Yeah. I have to say, this movie expanded my understanding of actions that make you look like an asshole. Right? There's certain things that when somebody is doing them on screen, you kind of associate them with being an asshole. Here's the thing. Eating an apple. Like, when somebody's eating an apple and they're like casual, it's like, oh, that person's kind of like an asshole. New thing added to that list, drinking from a massive water bottle, which is what Elijah Wood does. If somebody's drinking from a massive water bottle while they're talking to you, kind of an asshole. Definitely not somebody who you would want to.
Definitely not something you see all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's exactly that. It's hyper exaggerated reality of what he was doing. Like, that's fun. That's just fun. So I think I had fun with the tone of this movie, and I think like he did a lot of that. Some of this with Longlegs too. Like, what's funny is that in also this movie, the supervillain has like a shitty lackey, basically, who is bad at their job. And in Longlegs it was Longlegs himself, but in this one there is a lackey to I can't stop thinking about the funny parts of Longlegs is the thing. Like, I just really like that movie and what it combined. I am excited to see whatever the heck Osgood Perkins has next, because clearly he is somebody who is in command of like this specific form of horror, but he can do more elevated horror. He's done that in earlier movies I've talked about, but also Longlegs was, I think, a little more procedural thriller. So like, I'm excited for this guy. Hope
he's already wrapped more things. Already wrapped the next movie. It's called
You Remember the teaser for the monkey arrived, like, I saw that alongside Longlegs. Like, that's when you know you're cooking. You got people thinking about your next movie when they sit down for your current movie.
Yeah,
that's the good stuff.
Absolutely. I just want to make one more point about the plot. And I don't mean to harp on the short story, but my recollection of the short story is that it starts with Hal and Petey, Petey, the son of Hal, Petey finding this toy, the monkey. And then we flash back to find out all the stuff of Hal's childhood and how horrific it was. And we then sort of justify Hal's freaking out and we need to get rid of it. And oh my gosh, my son is in danger, right? I think that makes so much more sense from why does this guy have a child? Like, so the way the monkey movie presents it, I don't understand why this dude even has a child. I mean, obviously it could have been, unplanned pregnancy or whatever. But
he said it was an accident. Yeah.
But like,
you're not a mistake, but it was an accident.
The movie, we start off with the flashbacks and we establish that this guy thinks that everything he touches is going to be awful and in danger. And so I never, like, the idea that he would even have an ex-wife, it just already felt weird, and already I was having a hard time sort of squaring the circle. and then, you know, how much he only sees him once a year and how much their relationship did all of it felt like a larger hump to get over, rather than starting the movie with the love of the child and then freaking out and then jumping back and seeing why the freak out, which is how the short story does it. It just felt like an odd change for the film that completely ruined it, or not ruined it, but it didn't make as much sense to me.
It's different. Another hilarious person I can't stop thinking about, the boss that is way too young for Theo James. Sucks, man.
Yeah,
sucks, man.
Yeah, he's funny.
Every other, like, it's like how appropriate that one phrase can be for multiple things.
Yeah. Well, good right stuff. Away in that scene where you're like, this Adonis is working like the cash register for this kid,
for this 20-year-old. Yeah,
it makes no sense whatsoever. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Oh man.
But Jeff, I understand what you're saying, and I think this is a situation where this director saw this story and said, "Hey, I'm going to use this story to like work out my own personal issues with my life," and it's a fascinating insight into the director. But as a adaptation or as its own self-contained movie, I think it can, like, you can have your opinion on how successful it was, right? But I also think if somebody like Osgood Perkins didn't come along and have their own take on it, the movie probably never would have been made, right? And it's like, you know, so
or we would have gotten like a direct adaptation of just like what has been done before. And,
right?
You know, I am all for adaptations kind of taking their own flair, especially Stephen King stuff. It's not.
It would have been a 70-minute thing on Hulu that you saw. You know,
please don't misunderstand me. I'm not upset that an adaptation changes things. I'm saying when the change seems like a change for the worse,
right?
I notice it. That's all I'm saying. I felt like, this actually weakened my connection to that character because he's already odd, and his motivations don't make any sense to me right from the word go.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
You know,
what's up with
go ahead.
The gang of girls at the school.
Oh yeah!
Oh my god, what's funny.
There? They just like the shitty brother. Like they're just gonna do whatever he tells them.
I was sad that we like never see them again after the.
Would have liked some revenge there, or something.
That was amazing. I was just like, this is incredible. You know,
that's good stuff.
Yeah.
The thing about him only seeing his son once a year or two. That's like tonally, this movie is like camp, being really silly, really crazy scenes, and then like it drops him because like that's really sad. That's actually just really sad, like of somebody who is so self-aware of his own destructiveness and his own like the generational trauma that he will probably bring down to somebody. He's like, he has to limit himself like this, and also he doesn't hate his child. He wants to spend time with his son, but also he himself, his very presence is deadly. And as we come to learn, like maybe he had good reason to worry, you know, that it was just sad. Like it's just like sometimes life does something like that to you. You want to be a loner, but maybe you find somebody you connect with, you have a kid, didn't really plan it, and then these are the consequences, unfortunately. It's just sad. Like the movie drops those little tidbits of sadness, little tidbits of profundity to me. We didn't need Death riding on his pale white horse at the end of the movie, but also I think the ultimate thing is like, let's go dancing. Let's what do I tell my kids? Like when I step away from the news, like what do we do today? Like how do you live your life in the face of sheer insanity and randomness and madness of the world today? Like this is such a perfect movie for this moment. That's another reason that I think I'm just connecting to it.
I'm glad you guys brought up the girl bullies, because between that and I think the priest and some of the other stuff that was happening at the early part of the movie, I really thought that what the movie was communicating was that we were in an unreliable narrator's POV, that like none of this is actually how it happened. It's all just how it felt that it happened, you know? And I was kind of into that. I was like, oh, we're seeing sort of an exaggeration based on a little kid's memory of these moments, and none of them really played out this way, but they all sort of felt like they played out this way. But by the end, it's like, no, that's just how this universe works in this movie. It's just that's all just chaos. How it is.
You live in a crazy town, like the Edward Scissorhands town, basically, or everyone's just a little too heightened. I can't stop thinking about the priest, by the way, because like his initial reaction is in the trailer, but you don't know what he's going to do with it. And his whole like, Oh fuck. Oh damn.
It's like
did not
the
plan
first
this.
time seeing this. It's just so crazy. It's like he didn't have
everything.
they prepped him
No
zero
plan.
for what he had to do.
No plan. Could happen to you. Could happen to you.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah.
The head coming off at Benihana.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love me some Benihana. I've been to Benihana many
I was going to say, I
times.
feel like you've praised Benihana on the podcast.
I love
before.
Benihana. Love me.
Mhm.
Like, that's my birthday dinner joint, baby. I take the family to I love a Benihana. I don't think any of their knives are long enough to decapitate a person. Let me just put it that way. But it was a very funny scene.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it is really impressive that Osgood Perkins made a movie. Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.